So when you're asked to find the inverse, we're asking you for the angle. So go ahead, take out your unit circle if you don't have it out already. You do need a unit circle to help you answer your inverses. Unit circles not going away yet. We'll be working with the unit circle for a couple more weeks, 3 or 4 more weeks. Chapter 7, still with the unit circle. So go ahead and have it out. So when you see the word inverse, I want you to think angle. Inverse is asking you for an angle. That's what inverse is asking you for. Okay? So let's start off with sine. So this is a graph for the parent function for sine. In order for it to be one-to-one, we have to look at a piece of the graph. So we're not looking at the entire graph. We're only looking at a piece of the graph. So we're looking at a piece of the graph before it's not one-to-one. So if you look at this graph here, the piece of the graph that we're looking at is between negative pi over 2 and positive pi over 2. Okay? So on your unit circle, that is quadrants 1 and 4. So writing your notes that your restriction for inverse sine, so when I'm talking for my inverse sine restriction, I'm looking for an angle that is between negative pi over 2 and positive pi over 2. So all of my answers are angles between negative pi over 2 and positive pi over 2. So take a moment, copy down your restriction, and I'm going to actually letter these instead of using bullets. So I'm going to call this A, B. You do not need a lot of space in your notes, so you don't need to skip a lot of lines. You can skip one line maybe. But go ahead and copy down these 6 examples. I'll give you a minute to copy each of these down. And then we will look at the unit circle and find our answers. So take a moment, copy it down, get your notes together, and then we will work through it together. So remember, because I'm looking for the inverse, I'm asking the question, what angle? That's the question that I'm answering. Inverse is asking for an angle. So what angle on the unit circle has a sine value of 1? And remember, sine is y. So I'm looking here, I'm only looking in these 2 quadrants. Where is, or what angle has a sine of 1? Well, that would be here, right? So the angle is pi over 2, because we're answering it in radians, not in degrees. So the answer would be pi over 2. So that is the answer to question A. Oops, I put that in the wrong place. Let me scoot that over. Okay, pi over 2. These are the exact same question. Another way to ask for the inverse is to say arc sine. So this means inverse, okay? So this is asking you the same question as A, which is what angle has a sine value of 1? So again, that answer is pi over 2. Now let's look at question C. Look at your unit circle and find the angle that has a sine value. Remember, sine is y. Where is sine positive 1/2? So where is sine positive 1/2? So I know I'm in quadrant 1. So which angle has a sine value of positive 1/2? Pi over 6. That is your answer to question C. For question D, where is the sine value negative 1/2? So negative 1/2 is right here. But if you said 11 pi over 6, that would not be the correct answer, because you have to remember your answers have to fall between negative 90 and 90. So 330 degrees is not between negative 90 and 90. So what we need to do is subtract 2 pi. So this angle here, because it's just a reflection over this x-axis, so this angle can be written as, and feel free to write this on your unit circle, that this is the same as negative pi over 6. So 11 pi over 6 is the same as negative pi over 6. 7 pi over 4 is the same as negative pi over 4. 5 pi over 3 is the same as negative pi over 3. And 3 pi over 2 is the same as negative pi over 2. So when I ask you what angle has a sine value of negative 1/2, the correct answer is negative pi over 6, because negative 30 degrees falls between negative 90 and 90. So negative pi over 6 is the answer to question D. What angle has a sine value of positive square root of 3 over 2? So what angle am I looking at? Pi over 3. That is the answer to question E. And what angle has a sine value of positive square root of 2 over 2? Pi over 4. So again, inverse is asking you for the angle. So that's inverse sine. So now let's talk about inverse cosine. Where do we look at on our unit circle for inverse cosine? So we are looking at the x, but when we're looking at our graph, because cosine is a shift of sine, my restriction changes. So I'm actually looking from 0 to pi. So my restriction for cosine is from 0 to pi. So now you're looking in quadrants 1 and 2. For my inverse cosine angles, write that in your notes, you're looking in quadrants 1 and 2. So I'll give you a second to copy down these examples, but my restriction is from 0, and then the angle, I'm looking for an angle between 0 and pi. That's the restriction I'm looking for inverse cosine. Remember, inverse cosine and arc cosine are the same thing. All right, so I'll give you a second to organize your notes and copy down these 6 examples. Let me go ahead and letter these A, B, C, D. Okay, go ahead and copy these down, and then we will work through them together. So for part A, it's asking you what angle has a cosine, and now we're looking at the x value. What angle between 0 and pi has a cosine of negative 1? So what would your answer be to question A? What angle has a cosine of negative 1? Pi. Oh, thank you, Maya. Thank you. So right here, so this is where cosine is -1. So my angle is pi. That's the answer to question A. And again, these two are asking you the same question. Answer is pi. So what angle between 0 and pi has a cosine of -1/2? So what would be my angle that has a cosine of -1/2? So that would be right here on my unit circle. So my angle is 2 pi over 3. What angle has a cosine of 0? That would be right here. So my answer is pi over 2. What angle has a cosine of positive square root of 3 over 2? Pi over 6. What angle has a cosine of negative square root of 2 over 2? That would be here. And that is positive, or 3 pi over 4. So 3 pi over 4. Okay, any questions about the inverse cosine? All right, so last for today is our inverse tangent. Inverse tangent has the same restriction as sine. Same restriction as sine. We're back to quadrants 1 and 4. So back to quadrants 1 and 4. So take a moment and copy down these 4 examples. And remember, our restriction is the same. So I'm looking for angles between negative pi over 2. And positive pi over 2. So for tangent, I'm back to quadrants 1 and 4. So we'll talk, we actually won't do those 3 right now. But yes, we do. Okay, so here I'm just labeling these with the negative. So you're going to go ahead and look at the unit circle. And now you're going to tell me the tangent that has, what angle has a tangent of +1? What angle has a tangent of -1? There's actually 2 answers for this one. So there's 2 answers that are undefined. And then which one has a tangent, what angle has a tangent of square root of 3 over 3? So take a minute, go ahead, copy down your notes, and we'll work through this. We will work through these together. So what angle has a tangent of +1? Tangent is positive in quadrant 1. So tangent is sine divided by cosine. And whenever you divide two things that are the same, you get 1. So where is sine and cosine the same? That would be right here. So the answer is pi/4. I'm going to do this out of order. I'm going to do B last. So quadrant 4, tangent is -1. So the answer would be -pi/4 for C. Tangent is undefined. Let me go ahead and put that equal in my inequality, at the top. Equal to. So angles between -pi/2 and +pi/2. Tangent is actually undefined at +pi/2 and also at -pi/2 because tangent is sine divided by cosine. So there's two answers. And now, where is tangent equal to the square root of 3/2? Well, first of all, it's positive. So I know that I'm looking in quadrant 1. So that kind of helps me. I'm not looking down here. I know that it's not positive pi/4 because here tangent is 1. So that leaves me with two options. It's one of these two. So let's go ahead and divide to see which one is going to give us the square root of 3/3. So let's look at pi/6. If I take the sine of pi/6 and divide that by the cosine of pi/6, let's see what we get. Well, the sine of pi/6 is 1/2. And if I divide that by the cosine, that would be the square root of 3/2. We do keep, change, flip. So for keep, change, flip, keep, change, and then flip. My 3's cancel. So I'm left with 1 over the square root of 3. And when I multiply top and bottom by the square root of 3, I do indeed get that answer that I was looking for. So that tells me that the angle that has a tangent of positive square root of 3/3 is going to equal pi/6. So that would be my answer. So I'm going to give you a few questions for you to do by yourself. Let me go ahead and circle these. It's kind of jumbled up. So this is the answer here. This is my answer. Okay. All right, so take a minute and copy down these last few examples. And I just want you to try to see if you can find the answer on your own. And I will tell you that for two of these, the answer does not exist. So take a minute, copy down these 6 questions. And you can work with a partner or you can work by yourself. See if you can find the angle that I am looking for. Okay, so let's see how we did. So remember for sine and tangent, you're looking from negative 90 to positive 90. So I'm only looking in these two quadrants for sine. So where is my sine? What angle has a sine value of negative square root of 3 over 2? So sine is negative square root of 3 over 2 here, which is 5 pi over 3, but how would I write that to be within my restriction? Negative pi over 3. So that's the answer to A. Where is cosine negative 1/2? So remember for cosine, I'm looking in quadrants 1 and 2. So cosine negative 1/2, that would be 2 pi over 3. Where is sine 7 over 2? Does that exist? So it's D and E. Where is sine positive 1? Sine is positive 1 at pi over 2. Where is cosine negative 2? D and E. That does not exist. Where is tangent negative square root of 3 over 3? And that would be negative pi over 6. So if you take sine, because we already did this in the last example, but if you divide that, you do get negative root 3 over 3. Who got at least 4 right? Okay, that's good. All right, check Canvas for the due date for homework 6. Homework 6 is out of the book. It is in 7-1. We're going to finish 7-1 whenever we come back. We don't have school tomorrow. I don't know if I'm Zooming from home Friday, so make sure you are paying attention to what announcements we get. And that is it. If you have any questions, feel free to see me. I will have the test graded and entered today.